In today's rapidly evolving regulatory and business environment, organizations face increasing pressure to strengthen governance, risk management, compliance, and internal audit capabilities. GRC serves as the backbone of corporate integrity, transparency, and accountability. Their mandate is to ensure the organization operates responsibly, manages risks effectively, complies with all regulatory requirements, and maintains strong internal controls across all business units. Our AI-powered GRC system is built on 4 core modules: internal audit, governance compliance, and enterprise risk management. Each module functions independently with its own workflows, KPIs, dashboards, and reporting lines. Yet all 4 operate within a single, integrated, intelligent ecosystem designed to support the organization's strategic goals. At the center of the system is the GRC Global Library, a unified knowledge base that captures all risks, controls, policies, regulatory requirements, audit procedures, templates, and industry standards. This library is accessible to every module. It acts as a single source of truth, ensuring consistency, transparency, and alignment across the entire GRC framework. It is a centralized solution where we are keeping global best practices for any given industry. So, for credit risk management, what are the controls that are also being pulled up and being mentioned? What are their objectives? And what are the procedures to control the credit risk assessment? And at the same time, what is the evidence that a process must have, like credit reports, risk assessments, and rating documents? And finally, what is the schedule for assessing the credit risk? It can be monthly, weekly, or daily. So this entire list of processes that must be followed by each audit area can be distributed among many groups. That means there might be some processes that are related to governance. There might be some processes that are related to risk management, some processes on compliance, some on audit management, or general. So general processes are those processes that can be pulled into any of them. The process is applicable for compliance. At the same time, the same process is applicable for governance as well. The moment you have that for each process, you can see what should be performed by the department manager and the internal auditor, daily, weekly, and monthly, for each of the areas we've been talking about, an overall governance, risk, and compliance, so that all information is then further grouped under requirements like for board oversight and governance. This is one of the key audit areas. We need these processes and need to be sent to the board on a weekly, monthly, or daily basis. And in the same way, it also has delegation, where the process must follow a certain delegation. So it must have a delegation of authority. And those authorities must be followed while having any kind of approvals, be it expense or bid investments on certain CapEx or non-CapEx or OpEx expenses. So finally, with all those, the global benchmark for financial services related to board oversights are what? So this is one of them.
A loan approval rate.
The industry benchmark is 70%. So what is our benchmark? What is your organization's benchmark that will be calculated for the dashboard purpose so that you can measure your performance at the same time and manage your audit management system? So it may also have the details relating to the data sources, like on what basis these percentages are being calculated. It also gives a reasoning that why it is showing 65% based on the data uploaded by the user. This entire set of libraries can also be updated, as you can say that you are updating the loan approval process with the latest terminology, and you process it, and GRC library will be updated at the same time. You can export the library with approval from the management, so that is a global library under the different areas, which is compliance to all the requirements of GRC. Once the process is initiated in your organization, it starts with adding your company. So your organization might have one or many companies. All those companies can be added manually or via your organization chart. So if your organization chart in CSV or PDF for Excel is very detailed, it shows all departments, all managers, and all processes. This enables us to upload your organization structure, which would end up showing that in your organization, how many departments are there, and each department has a responsible department manager for GRC. At the same time, your internal auditor and external auditor. So these can be manually added, also based on your own information. And then you have the risk levels associated with these departments and the audit frequencies as well. So with this information, we end up having your organization's information. What I've shown previously was the GRC library, which is the global library. But at this moment in your organization, what applies to your organization is what is important to you. So that's the reason you have the company GRC documents. What it does is that it starts with an auditor sending an engagement letter. So when the auditors send an engagement letter, it gets information on the department manager's menu that somebody is requesting you to upload all the documents relating to the processes that are there, which you need to upload as per the auditor's requirement. So in the department manager's view, he needs to upload the document. So how does he do? He go in the upload document, and he can upload documents for the different policies. They are following standard procedures, they are following best practices, they are following legal requirements, they are following ISO requirements, they are following and IFRS requirements, they are following. So what they do is they just choose their company. And then the category for governance, their criteria relate to a policy. And that policy can have some upload document, which can be in their downloads or wherever or whatever folder, and then that gets uploaded to the system. So the system categorizes that document under the specific upload group that they have chosen. And based on that, it allows this document to be read by the internal auditor and by the AI as well. So I would read this document and press Update GRC. So what does that mean is I would extract all the processes that are there in the document of the company under the category of governance or the criteria as policy and take these processes to your company's GRC library. So this means that we are converting your documents to your processes that need the GRC system to be followed. It may be an audit compliance, or it may be external audit requirements or internal audit requirements. So entire processes would be updated to your company's GRC library as a step one. Your documentation, what you are following day in and day out, would be uploaded to our system. And then our system also has our global library. So what you can do here is you can choose your company, and under that company, you choose the year you want to do the audit planning, and then link and copy the GRC library. So what does that mean is that you would be having the processes copied from the global GRC library that has an AI update. At the same time, you have company GRC document processes. So, which ends up giving you a holistic, finalized version of your organization where you have a choice that, in our case, let's assume loan approval on credit assessment. Risk management is not applicable. So you can remove that process which does not apply to you, but it may apply to a global financial company. But at the same time, you can view what tests need to be performed on the control test quarterly or monthly, and what are the things need evidence. And then, for that, what are the requirements? So, against each requirement, what are the mandatory requirements? And then you see what the delegations of authority areas, the KPIs that would be measured, like even in this case, board meeting attendance rate is one of the KPI that is getting measured for this process. And then benchmarks are what? So against benchmarks, what exactly we are comparing to. So these all processes are being finalized here, where you can add and delete. Also, edit to find to go to a finalized version of the company's GRC library. So once that is being performed, we get on to the next module called Audit Planning and Scheduling. So here you can choose your company, choose a year, and say Generate Plan. So, on generation of a plan, the system would bring all of the company's GRC library processes and create a plan that covers your scheduling as well. Like, on what date, what process would be audited? And then against each plan type, there will be different plans, like there can be a governance process, there can be a compliance process. there is a risk management process and there's an audit management process. So you can view them and check what things are being. It's actually a copy of your company's GRC library for audit planning. And the good thing about it is that it takes your processes to a schedule. So, which goes as audit plan approval. So for 2025, this is the plan. And against this plan, you can just say approve or review. So let's review the governance plan. So under that, it will show that these are the processes that would have this schedule. So board oversight and governance has a schedule to start on this date to this date, the delegation of authority from this date to that date. So it grouped the audit schedule based on your processes. And then by that, it also calculates how many days we have planned this to be finished and when the final report will be issued. And who's responsible for that? And you can edit and add the schedule also. So once the schedule is there, you also have a new functionality where we say what the risk assessment matrix is relevant to the processes. So against each process, the system would score between 1 and 10. And there's a weightage defined for each of the processes. And then this is editable as well. So the complexity of operations gives a score of 7, with a weightage is 15%. So the percentage is fixed, but the score is flexible, and we give ourselves the weighted score. So this gives us for each process the risk level, so that we target high-risk level processes first in the audit planning and medium later stage, and the low ones we can have in the end. So all things are being finally covered under the schedule. So after that, this schedule would then be available for the annual audit program. So what does that mean is that once you approve any of your processes that would go into an annual audit plan, which is a downloadable PDF that speaks about one particular domain, like in this case, governance is one that I approved. And for governance, these are the 3 requirements that need to be fulfilled by this date by a specific manager, and what action you are going to perform on that is here. So the action would end up having some of the findings that would have observations, and then end up giving us a final audit report that would be submitted for final approval. So that would get into reminders and have an action plan for the key risk that got registered. And the same way that the entire audit workflow closes and is monitored in the dashboard. So like how many risks are still due, how many audits have findings are still there. What is the trend among other companies' risk levels? At the same time, you may have had recent activities. So that all goes into a risk management system independently as well, where you may end up with an accumulation of critical risks that need some budget, and the mitigation rate is being calculated. And that process would have different dashboards, which start with risk by categories, and then risk by different levels. And then, finally, you have inherited residual risk and categories. These are all being automatically calculated behind the scenes based on the data that is being processed and compared to the benchmarks. So these dashboards would end up with
risk heat map, trends.
And then finally, you have scatter plots and the risk velocity. And all processes have embedded dashboards on the data as well. So this is the overall process, though. The AI part also has a functionality of reading documents, converting them to processes. And then what the review comes from the business user, like he gives a finding or he gives you the detailed review on the requirements. So these all get analyzed also by AI and compared with the standard processes and give the appropriate score also.